Welcome to G-Data's technical podcast. In this episode, we are going to cover the basic aspects of mobile device administration with G-Data's B2B version of the Android client. We will focus on the installation and the fundamental security settings and cover anti-theft and all the other features in a separate episode. For starters, there are two ways of installing the Android client. Having physical access to the device is ideal for deploying the client. That way, you would not have to rely on user interaction for the initial configuration. Also, since the Android app is not installed from inside the Google Play Store, the security settings on the device must be customized to allow the installation of apps from unknown sources. If the devices are only to contact the management server when connected to the organization's Wi-Fi network, no further action is required than opening TCP ports 7183 and 7184 in the server's firewall. Port 7183 is used by the Android application to communicate with the management server, and port 7184 is used to transfer the app from the management server to the device. If the intention is to maintain a constant connection to the management server, it must be made available over the internet using port forwarding and possibly a dynamic DNS provider. For installation via the G-Data administrator, just right-click into a free area on the left-hand side of the network tree. Select Send Installation Link to Mobile Device. Note that server email settings must be in place in order for this to work. When first performing this task, you will be prompted to specify a password which must be entered on the device following the installation of the G-Data app. This is to ensure that no unauthorized devices make use of the app. The password can be customized. There are no restrictions in length or complexity. The password can also be changed later on for other installations. Just go to the Server Settings dialog in the G-Data administrator and select the Mobile tab. At the top, you can configure a new password. Also, depending on the legislation in your country, it might be required to configure an end-user license agreement for the mobile client installation and have it confirmed and acknowledged by the user. Especially in a bring-your-own-device environment, users should be informed about the extent of what the G-Data app is capable of and which measures the network administrator is authorized to take, with or without further consent, if a device has been infected by malware, or if confidential data is suspected to be compromised by theft or loss of the device. The license agreements can be managed and assigned via the G-Data administrator by right-clicking any free area in the network tree on the left-hand side of the admin interface and selecting Manage End-User License Agreements. Those license agreements are 100% customizable. Once the installation email has been received on the device, the user is required to tap on a link. This link will lead to a share on the management server, which holds the APK file. This share is created automatically during the installation of the G-Data management server. The security code, which was specified in the G-Data administrator, can also be found in the email. If physical access to a device is available, then connect it to your machine and just go to the folder C Program Files x86, G-Data, G-Data Management Server, Mobile Client Setup, and copy the APK file to the device's storage. After installing the app, it must be opened. Tap on Settings and activate the Allow Remote Administration option. This will give administrator permissions to the G-Data app on the device, as well as allow for the remote configuration of the app itself. Note that Device Administrator is not to be confused with root permissions. The latter is inaccessible in a standard Android configuration and can only be obtained either through specific apps which circumvent the security measures in place on an Android system, or by installing a custom firmware on the device. Confirm the requests made by the G-Data app. Furthermore, the app needs to know which management server the device is supposed to contact. Tap on Server Address and enter the IP address or host name of the management server. This is also supplied in the activation email. A port number does not have to be specified. Under Device Name, Any string can be entered, which might help the network administrator associate a given device or user with the entry for the device. Lastly, the password must be entered. With those tasks completed, the device is ready to connect to the management server and load updates and new configurations. As soon as the new mobile device connects to the management server for the first time, it will show up in the network tree on the left-hand side of the administrator interface. The device name you can see in the GData administrator is identical to what was entered in the Android app. It can then be moved into any groups that you may have created. The basic configuration is done from the Mobile Settings tab. All other tabs that relate to desktop computers will remain inactive and not allow for any actions. Most of the settings under General will be self-explanatory. The default setting for mobile devices is to sync with the management server once a day. The same goes for internet updates. In order not to generate excessive costs, updates are configured so they are only loaded once a day and only if the device is connected to a Wi-Fi network. Access to a Wi-Fi network can be granted or denied for a device based on a set of rules. First, a device type can be specified. This is for the network administrator's reference and does not have a direct influence over what a device or user can or cannot do. Let us assume that this is a privately owned device, which is also used for business purposes. To keep it consistent, Mixed would be chosen as a device type. Then the administrator can choose whether or not the user should be allowed to use the device's inbuilt camera. Since our fictional device is a privately owned one, we let the user have access to the camera. Otherwise, the user would not be able to use the device's camera when he is connected to the organization's Wi-Fi network. However, since there is potentially sensitive data on the device, the network admin can insist that the phone storage be encrypted. Without encryption, the device will be refused connection to the network unless the device is encrypted. Furthermore, rooted devices can be specifically blocked. If a user brings his or her own device which has a rooted custom firmware installed, a network administrator would be entitled to prevent this type of device from accessing the company Wi-Fi. A quick explanation might be called for here. Android, being a Linux-based operating system, has a user account built in which has higher permissions than any other on the device. This user is called root. In Windows terms, it can roughly be compared to a mixture of the administrator and the system account. Therefore, a process or application which has root permissions is capable of doing a lot of things which are not possible in a stock Android installation, including hidden activities to record confidential information, or prodding and poking the network for any soft spots, gateways, or file servers. If the previous criteria are fulfilled, access to the Wi-Fi network is granted. The network's SSID and password can be supplied in the GData administrator. Exceptions are possible. For instance, if a device which is not encrypted and has GData installed on it is to be connected to the network, a connection is still possible after entering a remote maintenance password, which again is configured in the GData administrator. We hope you were able to take something away from this podcast and look forward to providing you with more information in our next episode. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
GData. Trust in German Sicherheit.